Going live. Woohoo! We are live. Live. We're rusty at this, so if we screw up, guys, you get a full refund on all this free content we produce. That was the funniest comment. I did that Let's Encrypt video, and Phil, who worked for Let's Encrypt, he was commenting on the video because someone was ranting of their anger at Let's Encrypt of all the things they don't like about it. And Phil says, you can always ask for a refund. That's all he commented. I was like, dude, that's some cold smartassness there, man. Yeah. This free service isn't good enough for me. Then go buy a cert from DigiCert. I don't know. Don't use the free one. Oh, God, that stupidity.
Well, we should introduce ourselves.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm Xavier D. Johnson.
I'm Tom Lawrence.
And this is how they got hacked.
And this QR code will hack you from Huntress. This is coincidence. You know, I put this shit on before Xavier said, let's do how they got hacked tonight. Because their schedules have not lined up to do the content. We've been busy doing other things, but we said, he messaged me. And I'm like, cool, I already got my QR code on from Huntress. I'll pause it right here. So if anyone wants to try to scan it, it should work. So, Xavier's mic is too low. Let me bring you up. That should work. Hopefully, is Xavier loud enough now, folks? Low sound.
I'm sure I should be loud now.
Well, I can control each separate one. This is actually one tricky part about doing it remote is it tells me the levels, but I can't. I don't know easily how to hear them. So you guys tell us before we go any further. Much better. Okay, I got the sliders. I should screenshot where the sliders are.
Man, and then it'd be different. Just our luck, trust me.
Yeah, but I think we got them. So hopefully Xavier's.
We're GTG. Well, shout out to everybody for showing up. Hello, all of the Davids.
David's a popular name. I see. Wow, there's 3 Davids.
We got 3 Davids in a month.
Fair enough.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully you did not make the news this evening because we are about to go over it.
Yes. Well, there always more news.
Yeah.
Oh, you said something that I don't have this as in the show notes, but it's worth bringing up. There was a recent hack, and I wish I think I tweeted it. Did you see the fact that someone hacked the fave icons because they got people to use a bunch of different fave icons for the website, and then someone, I think it was an acquisition of the place that served up the fave icons and started injecting JavaScript into them.
Oh, wow.
So, and of course, they're doing it on the sites that take credit cards. And there should just be a rule. If you're taking credit cards, that section of your site should not have assets being pulled from third-party places.
At all, anywhere.
And, this is an old school hack from back when people used to use only old websites. They'll have those little seals of approval. And that seal of approval company got hacked. And all those seals of approval were on the credit card page to give you confidence.
Wow.
And it was the source of the hack. It was like the most ironic thing because the site was just kind of like a defunct site that just served up these little, checked by this company, but someone else acquired the domain and seen all the pull, and the rest is history.
That's all it takes.
It's all it takes. You have permission to share screen. We didn't check that before I started, but you should.
All right, that's good to know. I'm getting a tweet sent out here.
Okay, cool.
So we can try to get some peeps in.
Because we also have the SaltStack mess I dropped in there. Did you read that one?
Man. No, I hadn't caught up with the SaltStack one.
So
start there if you want.
Yeah, we can start there. So if you want to go ahead and pull it up, because if you share, it's easier so we can both see it. When I share it, you can't see it. Mm-hmm. Funky problem that we have to deal with on the back end here.
Production. That's what it's called.
We're getting better at it.
Remote is just different in general for everything. Like remote meetings are different. Remote selling is different.
Yeah.
Remote birthday parties and,
it's all becoming the new norm.
The new norm.
Scroll down a little bit because we'll actually start with the disclosure process that's a little further down. Wait till you get to disclosure timeline. That's my favorite part.
Okay,
Okay,
here we go.
read those two ones. The GPG key for SaltStack security team was published on saltstack.com, had expired in 2018. So the first starts with a request for updated key, which took 4 days. Repeated requests for an update key. By the way, 0 day out in the wild here, being actively exploited. This was a big mess. So the way SaltStack works for, you ever use SaltStack?
Nope.
I'm not particularly familiar with it, but I knew one of my friends had used it, and I said, do you still use this? And that led him to an absolute rant of how shitty they are, how they just don't listen to security people. They just do things in horrible ways, and everything's just a bug that may get fixed at some point in time. But essentially the way SaltStack works, you have your SaltStack server, and then you have all the minions, and the minions contact the server so they can accept commands as part of like a DevOps development cycle. But what happened was apparently there was all kinds of authentication bypass stuff, and when someone found it, they realized the way everyone's been using SaltStack is not the most secure way. They don't filter the ports for only listening for the minions. They just listen. So everything's publicly exposed, and a bunch of the command, it basically became the perfect command and control server, and they knocked over a ton of fucking companies, including, and how it even got my attention, they hit the XCP-NG team, who were not using SaltStack in the best way. Now, the best part is, why do we know all this? They did security right. They completely have, on XCP-NG, did a blog post on everything that went wrong, how they had it implemented, why they agree that they did it wrong, and how they remediate in the future by throwing away SaltStack was the first answer. And they're changing the way they did DevOps and modifying it. Now, the good news is, all it did was load a bunch of crypto miners, and their code's open source, and it never, the way they run things, it hit all the build servers, but never touched any source code, because the source code's pulled from GitHub publicly and pushed over.
Could have been so much worse.
Could have been so much worse. So they have absolute perfect snapshots of everything. The good news is they have full logging, so they were able to understand exactly what happened, and they got ahead of it. They didn't deny anything. They go, oh no, our servers got hit for sure. Here was the results of it. Here's how we're going to stop that. So it was kind of interesting. I still not going to sing any praises over SaltStack. It took a little while to remediate something that was being exploited in the wild, and but
yeah, I mean, you can look at it right here. It's pretty slow.
Yeah, so and part of it too, once it got out there, because it's open source, and when someone's seen there was a code update coming, they understood what was broken, and then the exploit went wild. So someone grabbed it and started building really quickly all these crypto miners. It is a quick way to hit all these servers, because it would just publish and grab anything off there and install it. So hey, let's just install crypto miners until someone notices. So they blanketed the internet, because all you had to do was send the command to the port, and it listened and accepted with the well-crafted command. So that's
amazing.
It's also sometimes crazy to think that this was hanging out there for so long. You know what I mean?
Worm level stuff.
Yeah, it's just a matter of someone finding it. And of course, that's that double-edged sword of patching anything is, once you patch it, people know what to look for. They start reverse engineering it. This is not just true with open source, but it's true with closed source.
Closed source, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everyone who's into the hacking community, you're waiting for that patch Tuesday. You're reverse engineering every patch. What did they touch? What did they touch? Oh, there's a hole in this. There's a hole in this. This is how you dive into it. So,
or you're watching that feed on HackerOne, just going like, oh, okay, this is what they've acknowledged as an issue.
Yep. So, fun stuff. But that's the story I had in there. And like I said, I like any company that gets ahead of it. I did a video on Sophos. They did the same thing. Sophos had a 0-day SQL injection, which is also why you should never take your firewall and expose it publicly, like the control plane of the firewall. So it's only affected people who expose their control plane of the firewall publicly, which I don't recommend, but we know people do. They had a SQL injection problem, but Sophos got ahead of it and actually did an excellent debrief on how the attack happened, how they pivoted, how they were able to get inside, what they did while they were inside. They actually ran all the scripts and worked with all their clients to notify and remediate. That's security done right.
Yeah, as long as you let people know what's going on, you keep them in the loop. I think that's fairly.
Yeah, I think that's like such a better. So many times we're watching all these companies, what hack? Nothing's on fire. Don't look behind me.
Rug.
I'll just sue
Yeah.
you. Yeah, that's my idea. Let me send litigation after you.
This was something that I thought was pretty interesting when I saw it, just because in the theme of how to get hacked, how people get hacked. Server side request forgery was something that we talked about with what's her name, psychotic something,
Yeah. That
and
attack from a while ago where she did the Citibank hack, I think was what.
yeah, where basically was getting access keys from the server side of EC2 instances using instance metadata. So basically, Cloud Goat is a purposeful, vulnerable environment, right? Purposely vulnerable environment, and this allows you to be able to go and explore with the different, attack vectors that you may be, thinking about. Kind of getting practice, right? Everybody needs a range in which they practice in. So the EC2 SSRF walkthrough was fairly interesting to me, just because for one, it kind of introduces some cloudy based kind of things, right? For one, latest Python,
Terraform.
new Python, Terraform. I've never heard of Pacu or Pacu. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but that seems pretty cool.
It's not what
Probably
I'm
want to
familiar with either.
dig into that a little bit more. But it kind of just walks you through exactly how it works and why it's important to test for server side request forgery, because as you can see right here, if you know how to invoke that server side request to an otherwise private IP address, the EPIPA address, come on, 169.254.169.254 routes only to a single host, right? That's just, so the fact that these bugs are scattered throughout web applications and APIs all over the world really is scary, because what it does right now is actually returns that access key ID in secret, which allows you to be able to do things like pivot into S3 buckets using
Wow.
those keys, right? And so this just walks you through exactly how it works, and it allows you to be able to demonstrate this maybe to your management or maybe to your manager, right? Or make sure that you don't have it in your environment by practicing it without the need of or potential of doing this out in the world. So I just thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's an important aspect. Is it's trust but verify. Trust that I set the server up right. Verify that I actually fucking set the server up right.
yeah, that just hardened.
I know when I'm setting up SSH hardening. Okay, make sure we don't have root login enabled, et cetera. So you're testing the things, but it's nice to run through a scenario. I still pop into another box that doesn't have my keys on it, try to root in. I should get an error immediately, even though I know I seen it. I seen the setting, just in
Right.
that off chance that somehow I've done something stupid like, oh, I don't know, occasionally forget the prohibit root and maybe left it twice in a config file. It seems to remember the last one you did, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, there's a lot of that. Just because it's almost muscle memory to do these things doesn't mean I still don't stop and check them all the time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Have you heard? Have you heard the? I don't know. I know your Twitter probably gets a little hectic these days, but there's been a back and forth on Twitter between like, the CISSP and it being equivalent to a master's degree. Have you heard about that?
No, people are debating that, or
So it seems like something sparked this debate, and I found an article on it here, and basically the idea is, and I don't know what I'll be honest, I don't have a CISSP. I also don't have a master's degree, so I'm like not even in the fight. Let me just throw this out here.
yeah,
But
I
it
only got a
seems
diploma. That's it. So I never went to college at all. So
right. Like
I got no skin in the game either.
so I think that the CISSP, since it's offered by ISC squared, is rated at some level of RQF. I don't know what RQF is, but level 7, right? So it's equal to a particular level of a master's degree, right? And so this was in the UK, and that's huge, right? To say something that is very much so test oriented is the same as something that's more capstone oriented is pretty interesting. So I just want to know, like where do you land on that? Like, how do you feel about it?
So I think what we're going to start seeing here is you. as the world itself and the things that we do become more complicated, you know, you think back, let's say go 100 years ago, why do barbers have that little spinny thing on there? That actually represented the fact that barbers would do some levels of surgery. Like you were like, hey, you can cut hair and cut off an arm or something, you know, because that was the medicine of the day. And you swing back 100 years, everything's super specialized. You don't have a general doctor. There's a doctor that, you know, looks at every individual thing. And same thing with technology. It's not like it was when I started in the 90s doing this with a few machines. Like everything is massively networked together. Nobody knows any one component. You don't have the jack of all trades people like you used to. People specialize in everything. So I think we're actually going to probably have to see a shift in the way we define education. Like, you are going to be a cybersecurity engineer. That may mean you don't know how to load Windows or load an operating system because you're on a different plane, because it's this complicated to do this and it's this complicated to do this. Oh, you're a network engineer. You need to understand BGP at a different level. But that also means how much time does someone need to commit to the generalized vocations? Like don't get me wrong, I think people should read a little bit of literature, do a little art and things like that. But it's so hyper focused, and it's like any high level degree. So I think I know it says apples and oranges at the top there, but it's there's still a lot
on the
to
same
it.
path, right? Because like after you get your master's degree, you very well be like, hey, I want to go get my CISSP, and I want to go and get my Azure cert, and I want to go get my OSCP, and I want to go do a bunch of other things. And if you're a person who's CISSP certified and OSCP certified, you may be looking to enter someone's, graduate school so that you can get a master's degree. It really does. Sometimes it's checking the box. Like I know a lot of places that are still old school, right? Like 2-letter companies, people that have 3 dots, so to speak. I'm not going to speak on their names specifically, but people that could have the entire 3-dot block of IP addresses would say, hey, you got to have a master's degree to be a VP here. Right. And that is totally reasonable for people who own patents to things and aren't like moving fast like Airbnb or, even maybe Facebook, right? Where they don't really value a traditional path as much as they do, the hard work and ethics side of it.
Right. And the tech companies are notorious for this. They, from as crazy as he is at the moment, or probably always has been, Elon. So, but either way, they're requiring that you have the knowledge and skills, not requiring that you have a traditional standard college degree. And this is, like I said, across the cybersecurity and across especially the tech industry, this is really, really common. It's just a shift in the way education works, and it takes a special skill set that is not easily learned because it's so ever changing. So trying to even teach people using traditional methods, any of this newer technology stuff, is really difficult. That's why you find some of these people, myself included, that have just completely learned things on their own because school wasn't a fit. And, you take someone think of some of the more prolific hackers and things like that.
Right.
It's not like, oh yeah, after he graduated Harvard, became a great hacker. No, it's like it's like if he survived not doing something horrendous between the ages of 12 and 17, if they can survive not doing something that landed them in jail because they hacked something incredible. And I love when, I can't remember one of them a long time ago, when they thought it was a nation state, and they're like, nope, it's just some kids. Just nation state attacks us. Nope. A couple kids want to get their Minecraft server running and built the most giant botnet ever. And
whoops. Yeah.
It takes not a college degree for that, so there's a lot of value in it. So I think we're going to have to see some reshaping of education because there's obviously some aptitudes certain people have. The guy that did the Sony hack, why can't I think of his name right now?
Who I'm talking. I can't think of his name either. Yeah, I know exactly.
His self-driving cars are amazing. I was watching his latest video on it, and I'm like, he's got just pure genius, but he's not. I don't know what level of college education at all he has, if any.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you think that the UK is maybe right in their stance on if you've worked hard enough to be able to get in a position where you can get your CSSP, you should be equivalent of someone who maybe just went to school for 6 years straight, right? Who's just 25 and just getting out of college.
GeoHots. That's why that name was on tip of my tongue. GeoHots, I don't think has any real formal education. Also, Tavis Orbandy, who's the head of the Google Project Zero. He's got some. I don't know if I think he's in head of it, but I know he's at some of the most craziest 0 days in security research on there. He's too young to have gone to college. Like he's
Literally too young.
Yeah, George Hotz. But it's. I think you're going to probably have to accept it's similar and it's equivalent. It's the nature of things. We're in a fast shifting, fast moving industry, and that's probably is a next step to make some equivalents like that. I think that's a relevant discussion.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
I
like it.
I employ several people who have degrees in computer science that also said, wow, my computer science degree feels really useless after I started working here, because so much that they're learning, they thought it was, maybe there's some pieces they pulled from their background, but so much that they're learning they did working here, they're like, this is so much different than what they teach you in class. I'm like, yeah, a lot of it is. And not to mention, they learned in class stuff that's technically so much older. I mean, your fundamentals of security, IPv4 is still here. So those fundamentals are probably still the same, but still the more advanced uses, the degrees just aren't as relevant. It's hard for schools to stay relevant like that.
Yeah, it's very true. Speaking of schools, and just thinking of the school age, you remember when TikTok got hit with that fine for the COPPA thing?
Yes.
They got fined like what, $6 million, $5.7 million or something like that.
Pennies for them, yeah. They made it in like 2 minutes.
2 minutes? Well, you're not going to like this, because apparently they still had not destroyed all personal information collected from users under the age 13.
Whoops.
Whoopsie. And it looks like that $5.7 million fine, well, that was the big side of it, because it looks like they're going to get hit with a $41,000 fine per violation against TikTok. So that's the maximum civil penalty. And that's, of course, for us to try and go and get for our children, but we'll see how that how that works out. It's very interesting.
This becomes really challenging because they're backed by a Chinese national company. Am I correct? Yes. So although, if I'm not mistaken, they started here as another brand and were purchased, but they've really become kind of a sensation, and obviously has a massive user base. And I don't know if we're ever going to collect anything from them. It's kind of. I mean, do they? Yeah. I don't know if they even have any type of physical U.S. presence at all, other than maybe some stuff hosted here for speed reasons. I mean, but the data they're collecting is
probably going offshore.
Yeah.
So that's there's that. Just want to kind of bring everybody up to speed.
Get everybody upset on that one there. So
this goes back to why security and data security and the regulatory and compliance standards around data go beyond just sanitizing inputs. Sometimes it's you gotta scrub data from people who probably shouldn't have been on your platform to begin with, or who are a special and protected group. So
and to go a step further, one of the problems is, like me or you, we've been using technology a long time, so we think of it differently. We understand it. The general consumers using it, kids, they're not thinking at all about privacy, not even entering their thought. They're just like, they're just online dumping information in there.
They're just having fun.
Man. They're not. Yeah.
Speaking of having fun, I'm super excited to go into this next topic. I'll be honest. All right. So CISA, everybody know what that stands for? Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Okay. CISA. Good old CISA. They have a list that has been generated, and they shared the top 10 most exploited vulnerabilities. So this is coming from the FBI, DHS, and CISA. So of course I want to read through this, because top 10, I got to know. I'm sure one of them's got to be RDP. Of course, as we see, Citrix, and Pulse, which we know have been a pretty much a big deal. And right here in bold letters, unpatched systems grease the wheels for attackers. So I wanted to go and dig into the top 10 exploits. And here's the actual alert and whatnot that came out. And here I'll do it from right here. So top 10 between 2016 and 2019, which is very relevant. CVE 2017, right? So um 2017 1188.2. I don't know exactly what this is. It's just Microsoft Office products, just all
Uh,
products.
yeah. This is the this is a bunch of them when they open it up. So yeah, look at this one. This one's interesting.
Improper restrictions within. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think I saw it. I think I found it. Oh yeah, it's just like you open up a document and it just like immediately
Right. And that's because
spreads
a
out.
lot of stuff is attached as documents. So once you get people to open your attachment, you know, pretty much every business has MS Office installed,
Here you go.
and a large percentage of businesses don't patch Microsoft Office.
Right.
That's not even on the patch list because they're like, if we update it, you know, so and so in accounting will be angry because it changes where the stupid banner is. Just leave it alone.
Dude, so like we're talking about 7.8, which most people will hear and be like, man, it's not so crazy, but it's top of the
7.8's
list for
pretty. Yeah, that's pretty high.
that's high enough. 2017 0199. 2017 must have been a really, really hard year for Microsoft Office because looks like yet another bug for them. And maybe it's more memory. Yep, allows remote attackers to execute arbitrary code via crafted
Yep.
document. So, yeah, there you go. Who doesn't love that? Open up my document, please. I
Yeah,
need that. I,
we
I
see it
need you
all
to
the
read my
time.
resume.
Now, I'm not going to lie. There is way too much Apache struts. There's a lot of stuff a long time ago was built on struts, and struts is a pain to update. So, and it falls down easy, so no one wants to touch it. So, looking at you,
and
Equifax, struts was
and here
the pivot point for Equifax, if you don't recall.
and here we are with you know, I think there was actually this bug that was used in that exploit.
Yep.
So, and this is just a flat out 10 out of 10. Like you could just pass hashtag command and get RCE. Like it seems like a backdoor if you ask me. Um, vulnerable products, Microsoft Office 2003, Commerce Commerce Server. I've never even heard of that. Fox Pro, Visual Basic, CVE 2012 0158. And what does this beautiful CVE do? List view 2, tree view 2, ActiveX controls. Man. So like people just have their way with just Microsoft
I
Office,
I
basically.
just
This is yet another Office document or website that will just kill your computer, apparently.
and look at the publish date of 2012.
Yeah.
It's like been around for a minute. Like,
Yeah.
and it's still being actively exploited. Just doesn't surprise me that much, but
Yep. These are the top 10. It looks like there's one from 2019 up here. Microsoft SharePoint. China COPPA uses this. And yeah, let me just dig into it a bit. Fails to check the source markup of an application package. So it's just a flat out RCE if you upload something to SharePoint. Fun.
nothing like
9.8
getting your SharePoint all set up. Critical there.
critical. And this is new, right? Like there's going to be a lot of this probably out in the wild.
Yeah, a lot of
Um,
people have been moving to the SharePoint Online, so now it's going to be
oh yeah.
exploitable there. And
Well, hopefully, if they move to SharePoint Online, it's hosted by Microsoft at that point, right?
yeah,
Hopefully. But
but
if if they haven't moved over and updated to their E3 to Azure, then we
right.
know that they're exposing a very bad service.
Yeah,
And
and I meant hosted
everybody loves
online, not
SharePoint.
necessarily by Microsoft, but a lot of people still choose to run their own hosting on some of that
Hmm.
stuff, and I don't understand why. Like, because they don't update it. So
Yeah. CVE 2017 0143. What do we got here? RCE for Windows. So like, are you guys getting a theme here? Is it just me that people really, really want your Windows machine to do things that it's not supposed to do?
And Windows is really good at doing things it's not supposed to do.
Apparently, this one is a SMB vulnerability, SMB RCE, and it's almost like, why is SMB even so heavily relied upon in today's networks? Like, why do we need SM? I get that we probably can't print without it, like, and do
Well,
other dumb shit like that.
yeah,
But
it's still how a lot of the file sharing happens. So
yeah,
what's crazier is if you start digging around the internet, years ago, the cable companies started doing this to protect people. People just expose SMB all the time. So the cable companies got together and they started blocking all the ports, like 137 for that. They just did it because everyone's files in the early days of the internet. That was so much fun, by the way.
Man.
SMB was public all over the internet, and so were printers. And I mean, I had my fun. That was when I first got the cable modem. Would have been 97, I think. So
you're just scanning for 137, and
dude, you could scan and just find it. And finally, they all just kind of declared, we got to stop this. So, but back to this. One of the other challenges that blows your mind is go over to Shodan, and you'll be shocked at how many people have somehow managed to figure out how to expose SMB to the public. But of course, it's also still a pivot point if you have an unpatched server. Yeah, I forget what the search is for the SMB.
Probably just SMB.
Probably just SMB.
There you go. That's an easy number.
Yep.
Top services, SMB, 1.5 million. It says it right there.
Yeah. They're exposed everywhere. So
good old SMB.
Good old SMB.
All right. Moving along here. What do we got? Adobe Flash Player, CVE 2018-4878. That makes sense. No one should be running Flash Player anyway. Like, what are you doing? Like, why do you need Adobe Flash at this point? We got JavaScript. That's the new shitty thing that's getting exploited. The entire .NET framework from 2.0 all the way to fucking 4.7. That is carnage.
And no one wants to update .NET framework. That's another one that's so many things are
in a lot of applications.
Yeah,
and that's the application will install a vulnerable version of it for you.
Well, and you can sometimes run into problems, especially the ever popular QuickBooks. You don't want to break the .NET framework because QuickBooks and many other business applications are relying on it. So people are like, don't touch the .NET, don't load that new version because it breaks QuickBooks or something. And yeah, and then you end up with a 7.8 base score here.
Oh boy. And something from 2015. Here we go. Back to Microsoft Word and Office and apps. Probably an RCE if I had to guess.
And like Fendrick said over here in the chat, dude, if it didn't take 30 minutes to fucking install and run, yes, on a fast computer, 30 minutes is good to just update your .NET. I don't know what the hell it does when it updates, but it just chews your hard drive for 30 minutes solid.
Oh my god, dude, don't get me started on fucking Windows.
Yeah.
I've been shooed away from Windows, unfortunately. I was running Windows because it's easy to create content there. And even within my content creation space, Windows figures out a way to fuck it up. I'm like, okay, all right, whatever. Anyway, moving on. Drupal exploits, because Drupal, it just wouldn't even be a complete list without a CVSS base score of 9+ Drupal bug. RCE.
My favorite name for this 2018 Drupal bug was Drupalgeddon because because so many servers were vulnerable. I was actually kind of happy because this killed off a lot of servers. Like we were hosting stuff, but no one would pay us to update it. And we're like, if it gets hacked, we're not fixing it. We flat out told people this because it's so old, we can't patch it. And as those sites got taken down, we're like, boo, they had to buy new sites. We're like, just buy something new, modern, and WordPress. Drupal didn't have good migration paths from some of the older to the newer stuff, so you had to do a lot of rebuilding. So we're like,
it was really rough. I did some Drupal development for a while, some custom development for Urban Science, and it was a pain.
Yeah. They just the latest version of Drupal is a lot better, but it took a big code refactor. So that's why they broke compatibility, but they sacrificed previous compatibility to write a better code base going forward with Drupal. and for large scale news organizations that use it, it makes sense. But yeah, it was a big mess with that patch that got out there. So it killed off a lot of Drupal sites or turned them into botnets.
Yeah, right. Yeah, put it into the botnet of all botnets.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but even WordPress has done really good about its upgrade path now. It kind of like, even if you don't touch your WordPress for a while, it'll just go update itself and
Yeah,
kind of
they
just stay alive.
the only thing that WordPress doesn't have a solution for, there's another WordPress botnet that's been on the loose. Uh, WordPress removes things from repositories if they become out of date or have a security flaw that doesn't get up to date. But if your WordPress, even if it self-updates, things that were removed from the back end of WordPress, like it's no longer in their plugins list, still stay on your website. You have to manually remove them, and that's what's been being exploited lately in some of the latest WordPress attacks.
Hmm.
It's kind of usually because people are using them for some site functionality. Then there's a bug found in that plugin, and then the
Right.
developers are MIA. It was a college project. They never
Right.
wrote it again because it was a free plugin, and then they remove it because they know there's a
Or even
vulnerability.
worse, a theme developer forces that plugin into a theme, and then that
Yes.
person doesn't get to get the the premium license unless they pay for it, and
Yep.
they're like version locked. And even if they do upgrade, their site breaks, so they got to
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
back to the old working version of WP Composer or whatever it is, WP Bakery's thing.
Yep. We're
I've
facing
been
that
there. It's
with my
rough.
website right now. We've realized that there's some trouble updating it. So it took so much work to update it. We're moving themes because this theme, every time there's an update. Now, the good news is the updates had nothing to do with security, but we're like, boy, if they have a security update, every update's been a pain to update the
It's
theme.
gonna fight.
So we're starting to rewrite our website looking at a new theme for this reason, because it's now something you have to think about a lot.
Right. And while I was scrolling on that page, I found something that I think that we maybe just want to just gloss over, even at 30,000 feet, which is Microsoft Office 365 security recommendations. So, like, when a .gov is just like, yo, like, we get it. You don't want to pay Tom and Xavier. We're just going to write you a blog post to reiterate the shit they always tell you, you know. So, we're just going to take it from the top. Use MFA right
Yep.
here. Enable multi-factor authentication. We've been telling you this for a year, but hey, just in case the feds had to tell you, it makes sense for everybody. MFA. The next thing, RBAC, right? Like least privilege. Okay. I think like first episode, I was like the first 10 episodes, I was
Yeah.
just
We
screaming
were
least
trying to beat this over
privilege.
people.
Dude, least privilege. Audit logging. Unified audit logging is a great enhancement that O365 has brought in the last 10 years. It is nice. With moving to the cloud, you can get to see all these different things, and it grabs all of that data and into one place so that you can see what's happening in SharePoint, OneDrive, Azure, Teams, everything, right? But you got to enable it. It doesn't just come enabled, right?
Now,
With like most logging.
That is something that has puzzled me greatly, that why Microsoft doesn't have logging on by default, because Google does. And someone told me, well, Microsoft doesn't have enough storage to do it. I'm like, it's logs. They're not where the storage problems come from. Like,
Right.
storing
Yeah.
activity logs are not, they're compressible. They're just, transactional logs, because we need to know what the hell happened. And unfortunately, some of the calls we've gotten from clients or new clients we picked up, and when you're trying to reverse it, first thing we find is none of this was turned on. So we have a hard time, finding the source of who logged in where, what the hack was. We can clean up, and we turn it on going forward, but it's not on by default, which blows my mind.
Yeah. And and sometimes even if it is on, it only will capture like the last 3 months. And attackers typically dwell for about 5 to 6
Yes.
months before before you even realize it. And then you go back and you're like, how do I get, source of compromises? Even if you had logging, sometimes you didn't have the right amount of data retention. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, enabling MFA for all users, not just admin users, but all users. That's just kind of like a double down on enable MFA, please. And then just disabling legacy authentication protocols when possible. All right. So that makes sense.
Yep.
The rest of the stuff is really Microsoft specific, like, Secure Score and, integrating with some seam. I can't give you any seam suggestions. That I won't go down that line.
Yeah. I
Um,
can't even think of a good seam tool that works with Microsoft anyways. Don't ask
I'd
me either.
imagine that Elastic, but I'm not getting paid by them. So
It's a whole
hit me up
different.
if you need a seam. We'll figure you out.
Yeah.
We'll get you sorted.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, let me see what else I got. I may not have anything else. That might be it. Oh, one thing I did want to talk about, if you want to talk about it, is Thunder Spy. And the other thing, which I
Oh
think that
yeah.
we should really end off on, Tom. I'm telling you, iOS bugs are becoming less valuable. You know why?
Huh.
Because they're becoming fucking rampant. And and whenever there's an influx of things in the market, things get cheaper. And apparently, Zerodium has come out and said, "Hey, we're lowering the prices for all of this stuff because there's just too much of it in the market now."
The Thunder
They,
Spy though,
yeah,
too.
right.
Yeah, I agree with the iOS stuff, but the Thunder Spy. Um,
It's
one
nuts.
edge case that seemed well, one you have the fact that they need physical access, so don't go destroying all your equipment. But
Turn your
one of the things
computer
this
off before
doesn't
you destroy
prevent,
it. Holy shit.
yeah. Well, I know people, oh, I'll throw this away, but one of the things that's really interesting about this is, um, it you always want we're always telling people, all right, use TPM, use this. That way, if someone wanted to inspect your computer and you're using the trusted platform module, whatever, but what the challenge is, this now allows them to, in some ways, bypass that. So they'll be
Hmm.
able to get around certain things. So they can grab information from your computer if, it's left on, if it's in sleep mode and
They
things
can
like that.
write things to the EPROM, which is like a non-rewritable. I mean, unless without physical access, it's a non-rewritable portion of your MOBO, which like is like that. When you think about it from that perspective, it's like, how do you know that your EPROM hasn't been flashed?
Right.
Like, where is the detection? Like, does my AV go off? Does it even have a signature on with my? It's bro.
Yeah, I mean
Like,
that's an interesting standpoint to think about too. That you have to checksum those and look for checksums. I mean, maybe these are checks that will be added to the kernel later in Linux or even
it
in
almost has to
Windows.
be now. Well, the TPM should do it now, right?
Right.
I
Well,
mean,
no, I
holy
don't think the
smokes.
TPM checksums the BIOS. It checksums TPM will lock hardware to it. So if you take the drive out, it's not going to work external to that machine. But TPM, to my knowledge, maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe someone who knows more about it. I don't think TPM does any checksumming on the BIOS to confirm that
Oh
there's been
wow.
no tamper because they're not expecting it.
Mm. Well, is the TPM? Does it have its own independent logic beyond the BIOS? Like, would it even be like would it even be able to be at that level of sentience, or would it be tied to? Like, would it even be able to see into that process? Like, does the BIOS have to boot before? Like, the
Probably not
BIOS
because
kind of is the first thing that happens, right?
yeah, and most things query the TPM. They look for its existence, and then they lock because of the way the hatching works with it. They
Mm,
lock security on your device to it. So the TPM is not like an active
there you go.
component.
That makes sense. It's a.
Yeah,
It's more like it's a like a key holder almost.
yeah, it's like a
Like
key.
a key
It's like your
exchange.
YubiKey.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
similar in that way because it queries it and can get responses to verify that the system you set up. So Windows can lock to the TPM, the hard drive's locked to that TPM. So without that TPM, something goes wrong, that hard drive can't be used. Now I'm a bigger fan of Lux, and because Lux isn't going to be tied to the TPM, Lux is a password you put in. It's harder to extract something like Lux or any passwords from it using this method.
I want to show the video.
Yes, the videos. This thing's damning. Oh, and it's the same computer I have.
I know, right? God.
It makes it hit home. Is this tell me it's a well, he's got it blacked out.
I think it's the X1 Carbon. Yeah, I
Put it
think
back
that's
to
the X.
sleep.
I think it's the X1. And this is when he needs like a Tom setup. So I want to just help him a little bit here. Do what Tom would do. Try and push him into the future.
Yeah.
So basically, he takes off the backplate and then he has this beautiful breadboard which is connected to a computer, and then he puts this EPROM reader onto the EPROM of the board. And what he's going to do is he's going to read it, and then he's going to modify it, then he's going to flash it with his own, which will then, since the computer is powered on, do things to the computer, which you know uh, uh, at the time in which Thunderbolt is interacted with, some payload runs, which allows him to be able to log into that machine without authentication. So he's actually flashing the ROM right now, which it has to read the flash to overwrite it, which takes some time. Now he is running the patch, and which is actually putting the payload onto the RAM. Well, at least that's what he's doing right now. He just put a W. Fast forward through it. All right. Stuff happens with computers that look very computer-y. And then he takes off his programmer, which you can get for like $20. Of course, the Saley logic controller is, the logic analyzer is like $1,800
Yeah.
or something like that.
But
It's expensive.
any of this can be, you got to remember,
He's doing the research.
high level actors have access to all this stuff. You know what I mean?
This is very easy for the Russian agent that they sent to DEF CON because you left your computer on and thought that the safe was safe, right? And because now he's just going to come here and with his Thunderbolt, since it's been poisoned, he's going to interact with it, which then fires off a payload. Which is probably waiting for some interaction. Well, that is the actual connector to the Thunderbolt right there, which is some custom built ASIC, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like now he's interacting with that computer
Yep,
over.
pushing it to the USB.
Yep.
I just sent some deep hacking here, man. This is great. This is some serious research.
This is the double E side. And bingo bammo. Welcome.
He's in.
Now I can steal all of the the jet plans. Because that's what I came for. If I'm going through all of this, that's what I came for, right? Like if I got this level of interest in this, then I came for,
circumventing a check. Scroll down a little bit through there. So take firmware image away, plant in a rogue, Thunderbolt direct memory access, and profit. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a great write-up.
At your leisure, too. Later on at your leisure.
Yeah, well, I mean, once you got into the machine, now you can, backdoor it, plant whatever you want. You've got raw level access to do it.
Physical access is, root access. So
yeah,
this is just going back to that. Security keys on your laptop is a thing, but maybe not.
Yeah,
like maybe having some security screws could help you, but very well not. I don't know at this point. That seems like beyond anything that I have a mitigation for.
Yeah, and this is one of those things that, and one of the things that really made me laugh. A guy was giving a security talk a few years ago at an event. I like the way he started out. He's going, I can help you with this cybersecurity, that security. He goes, but if you have a 3-letter agency after you, 1, don't talk to me. 2, can you leave? Because I can't help you. Like nothing I'm going to tell you is going to help protect you from a 3-letter agency. All right, now let's talk about getting secure. I mean, that's just a very realistic answer. If the NSA has decided you are a valuable target, I'm sorry. It's not going to go well for you.
Exactly.
Especially if they have some physical presence beyond a pseudonym of who you are. If they have some idea at all, things are not going to go good for you.
It's going to be pretty easy for them.
Yeah. Yeah, once they know your name.
And kind of just jumping back to that iOS topic, just really quickly here. I had to. Like, it's just hilarious.
The register nails it every time.
Every time. Taking a bite out of Apple's Cortex. Oh man, biting the hand that feeds IT. Yeah. If you got that bug and you were sitting on it hoping that it would become more, worth more, sorry. Thanks to Google's Project Zero potentially dropping 5 privilege escalation chains and a number of other people just being involved and piling onto it. Shoosh, yeah, it's getting pretty bad. I'm just ready for my next iOS update now. I think this phone has got the most iOS updates than any phone that I've ever had. Like it's revving. I think I'm on like .4 or something.
Yeah, it's
Let's see.
one of those things that and this is Google has caught up with security quite a bit. Apple is there, and now Apple's. It's a hard thing. Security is not easy. I'm not. It's not like they're making amateur mistakes. It's just the fact that more and more people are poking at it. So
I'm saying, man, $2.5 million Android bounty. Hey, that looks a little bit more juicy. That's a bigger bounty
yeah.
than what you're getting for Apple these days. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, Samsung. I think Google Project Zero had one they found in Samsung too. It was exploited through memory in the specifically Samsung phones. Something to note: iOS exploit chains. So the way they're doing a lot of these is chaining exploits together to get this to happen. The complexity levels. It's not like they're running one. It's this chain to get this chain to this chain. You're tagging all these multiple exploits to create the problem to get around things. So it's they're increasingly complicated. Pretty amazing too.
Exactly, which like the increase in complexity typically drives down the number of active exploitation, right? Like we don't know of any wild campaigns of people keylogging and turning on screen cams and that kind of stuff, but that makes it even more scary because the types of people who have the knowledge and the know-how and the motivation to do this are nation states, just quite literally. So it's like, yeah.
Or GeoHot.
Or GeoHot, right?
Guy's like a nation state in his head.
Man. We got to meet him one day.
Yeah, he's definitely interesting.
Not this year at DEF CON, unfortunately.
Well, we're doing it all remote now, so I guess I can attend now.
Hopefully we get some talks. There's no talk track released yet. I need to see the talks. Hopefully it goes good.
I pulled off. It was a businessy one, but I pulled off of one of the local places that I was supposed to speak at. We converted all my stuff online, and I had 57 people show up to my talk and interact, and it actually went really well. So I may do a couple.
That, right?
I hosted it. Yeah.
I mean, you reposted it onto YouTube.
Oh yeah, right? It's on my YouTube channel. Yeah. Yep. But I did the talk. It seemed that the video seems longer than it is because I did the talk and then I did the Q&A after. So it's actually only about 30 minutes of content, and the rest is, unless you want to hear the Q&A from all the people. But what we had everyone do, and I think this format works pretty well. I used it elsewhere. We forced everybody on mute for the Q&A, and we had everyone post, and we had one person that we elected to read the post. They picked out all the questions kind of as they went along. They would read that person's question, I would answer. Read the next person's question, I'd answer. So it ended up being almost 25 minutes of Q&A, but everyone got all their questions answered, and I offered a lot of interaction because they were like, well, can you explain this or that? So I'd explain each one, next question, and even at the end, even though I peaked at 57, at the end 42 people were still online.
Nice.
So
nice.
I thought that was a pretty successful meeting, and generally those meetings would go about an hour. So the overall about an hour meeting, and yeah, it worked out pretty well. But I think the talks it's figuring out methodologies that work to be able to do the talks online. I mean, we already live stream, so we're most of the way there. It's just finding a way to keep it, there's only a handful of people who really had questions, but at least there was a strong attendance, and
nice.
I may do some more webinars because I like the interaction with it. I like being, making sure I answered people's questions. We have 41 people here right now on our live stream, so that's not bad.
Woo-hoo.
So,
hello, everyone.
We've been trying to answer your questions over here. I've been reading some of the comments. So
I'm not even logged in to my Google, and I would have to go and get a YubiKey to do so. So I haven't even typed in a single comment.
I seen someone comment they watched my video I did on it, so Chad commented on there. So yeah, it was a good time. I shared all the behind the scenes and how I do the YouTubes and how the system works, and it's a fun topic. A lot of business people are interested in it, and I came at it from the approach, this isn't for everyone. That's what I tell people. And one, I have nothing to sell you. I'm not going to help you with your YouTube, so don't ask me. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not here to coach you through it, and I have nothing to offer. I'm just telling you what I do. If you're interested, I'll answer some Q&As. Maybe it works for you. Maybe you go, you know what, this isn't for me and this is stupid, and I'm fine with that answer too.
To each his own.
Yeah, to each his own. just want to share what I do. A few people I got a couple nice messages from people afterwards that said, maybe creating content might help my business. I'm like, you got a strategy for it, do it.
Yeah. It's definitely, you got to make sure you got to have the strategy for it for sure. It's not as easy as it looks. Content
No,
it takes some, you gotta,
it's hard.
It's some work. Yeah.
And one of the things I did in that video is I broke down completely not related to me categories: finance, accounting, and realty. And I showed 3 different YouTubers killing it in those categories. In accounting, you think it was a boring topic. I showed an accountant who's got like 7-minute long videos on how to do some accounting forms and stuff like that with 2 million views on the video.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, yeah, short and sweet.
There's a lack of people doing it, but the demand didn't go away. There's a lot of young people that go, how do I do this type of accounting?
Right.
Back to our college topic. College is expensive. Not everybody wanted to go, but
YouTube
now they
University.
can learn these segments of things they wanted to know about this or that, and that person has it. So, and you don't have to get, another thing I always highlight is you don't have to get complicated. You're watching a live stream right now recorded on a $99 microphone. And, well, when they're not out of stock and being ransomed off, a $70 webcam right now. If I go, I can sell this webcam. I got to get on this because I thought about it and just didn't do it yet because I'm lazy sometimes. I can sell this webcam on eBay for more than I'm going to buy the streaming setup for.
Really?
These C920s, look on eBay. They're going for over $200.
I have one of those.
It's the big webcam shortage of 2020. You think toilet paper is in high demand?
Man, I got webcams. I got one just sitting over there.
Yeah, put them on eBay, man. Get a couple $100 for them.
Why not? Shit, that's a good idea.
Anyways,
yeah,
all right.
I'm gonna
go take off, chill out.
It's still sunny outside, so like I'm pretty sure you got like a motorcycle to ride.
I do. We just put the insurance back on the bikes.
There you go.
I prepped them up, so yep, I got some
motorcycles. I was just thinking to myself, like, damn, this time last year I would be daredeviling around Tom's parking lot. Man, that taking a break from winter like kind of fucking lasted extra long, didn't it? Holy smokes! I just didn't want to come in while it was snowing. Not now. It's nice. I definitely want to come to the office right now.
I know.
I'm afraid of the COVID.
Yeah, shelter in place has been me. I didn't really go to events where people were anyways. As Xavier knows, he's always like, "Hey, Tom, come to this." I'm like, now I have the excuse. I just say COVID. I'm like, it's my universal. Right. It never wears out, no matter how many times I say it. Why didn't you go here? Oh, COVID, man.
Well, you know what? We just had a MISEC yesterday, a MISEC and OWASP meeting put together. I did a talk for, and after the talk was over, we talked about, what the new event will look like, right? Like we won't be able to do events where we don't cap the amount of people that can come. Like there's an amount of responsibility that says, hey, this space can reasonably fit 15 to 20 people. We're not going to just say anybody can come. We're going to have to say, hey, maximum 50. Like it sucks, but you almost have a responsibility if you're going to do events not to overcrowd right now for the next year or so. It's just, walking on eggshells, and like almost all of those events are going to have an in-person and remote, aspect. And it's going to be how engaging you make the content, both in person and remote, that'll make a difference, right? So it's a lot to think about.
Yeah, I think we'll adjust to it. Science will find solutions to it, and away we go. That's
right.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm gonna jump off here. Just thank you, all of you, for joining us and hitting that like button and all that fun stuff. We're gonna work on, we're always trying to work on doing it more often. We're just both pretty busy doing stuff, so.
Yeah, I mean, I told everyone that came, like Chad Dukart came to the event last night. Fendrix came to the event last night. Justin, a few others. They're just like, yo, we want more How They Got Hacked. Like, how do we get more How They Got Hacked? I was like, okay, I'll tell Tom I want to do How They Got Hacked on Fridays again. So like, we'll try and do it every single fucking Friday if we can, right? Like if we can't, we can't. But I'll genuinely put a honest effort into trying to do it every Friday.
The good news is the only restriction really is our time, because
Yeah.
shit's fucked up in security world. There's no shortage of content, that's for sure.
Not a single. It's only going to ramp up. Actually,
The hardest part is figuring out what we should cover, because there's like 10 million other stories out there that happen.
And what we can cover. There's certain stuff that comes out I got to avoid because I work in that industry, and some of those people actually end up being customers. Seriously, dude, it's nuts right now because the world is still moving. There are people still getting breached. 238% increase, or 283%, one of those two numbers, increase, over 200% increase in bank attacks since COVID. So
nothing's slowing down.
Yeah, it's not slowing down. You just gotta. It's a matter of time. We're looking at 3 to 4 more months before we actually can see the breakdown on we got hacked and here's how. Be prepared for a fun winter.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. All right, thank you everyone for joining us, and we're out.
Later, till next week.
Till next week.